Hello, and thank you for joining us. My name is Mollie Carmichael with Zonda's Inspirational Leadership series, joined by the industry's best in all things real estate. These leaders are literally designing our future for many generations to come with new communities, home designs, technology, retail centers, infrastructure, and so much more. This series is about who they are, how they got started, who inspired them, and their journey to the top. So let's get started. Thank you for joining us today. Please welcome Rick Severance with Mattamy Homes. He is the president of one of their premier master plans in Florida, known as Wellen Park today. I really find Rick's background quite impressive. My guess is he's been a natural talent all of his life with an eye for great talent and design. Rick has provided leadership to some of the best master developments out there as the chief executive officer of Seaside Development for Seaside. This development was honored with Time Magazine's Development of the Decade as an example. He worked as a top leader at St. Joe, one of the largest, I think it is the largest developer in Florida. And he also was president of Babcock Ranch, one of my favorite master plans in the country. There is so much more I could share about Rick, but truly everything he has had a part of has just done so well. And he's just a great guy. I would say people also just love working with Rick as well. There is a great energy about Rick, and you will hear that in this entire interview. So with that, let's get started with Rick himself. Please join me in welcoming Rick Severance. Welcome, everyone. Today, we are here with Rick Severance. He's the president of Wellen Park. He has quite a history on the master plan side. He has been involved with Seaside, Camana Bay, Sea Island, Babcock Ranch, one of my favorites, Rosemary Beach, and now Wellen Park. He's a master plan developer for more than 20 years now. And I thought, what a great opportunity. And Rick, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Well, we're going to dive into one of the simplest questions I always ask everybody at the very beginning. Tell us what you do. What is it that you do on a daily basis?
You know, if you boil it down, I'm a placemaker. That's all the experiences in my career have brought me to the. Really, it should be in parentheses under my title. I'm a placemaker. So, Wellen Park is a 1,000-acre master plan community. We sell about 1,000+ homes a year. Commercial, residential, education, school systems, worship. You name it. So it's the complete suite of placemaking, not just the home building side and or the commercial side.
Well, Rick, you've worked on some of the neatest master plans that I know of. And that says a lot because I've seen, I think, just about all of the big ones across the country. I mean, and you've done some pretty impressive things, but we're gonna put that on hold for a second. And I want to go back to kind of the very beginning with you and sort of how you got into home building, but maybe even earlier than that. Tell us a little bit about kind of where you grew up and what you wanted to be when you were younger and how you fell into all of this stuff.
Okay. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. We were all extremely competitive from an athletic perspective. So hence where my intensity and my purposefulness came from was really from an athletic perspective. I was in candor wanted to go to college specifically for what was in the business school, hospitality and real estate. But my parents had ownership positions in hotels. And so for me, the dream job was to be like a general manager of one of these amazing resorts. And so that's kind of the avenue I was going in. And that's where it turned me on specifically to the second home resort real estate market. I had a bunch of interim steps along the way that brought me to a position where I became a consultant with Ernst & Young, specifically at the Kenneth Leventhal merger. I was on the hospitality and real estate side. And from there, when your client becomes Seaside, you do what every good consultant does and you leave to go work for the client.
So I have to ask you, what sports?
So I was a diver, Florida State swimming and diving.
Nice.
Thank you.
Nice, super fun.
Yeah, I have one brother that played football in college, Division I, and I have another brother who played baseball, Division I. So we were a pretty athletic household.
So I have to go back a little bit to your parents being in the hotel business and things like that. How much of that influenced, I think, your career? And do you think just having that early exposure had some impact?
My parents were obscenely hard workers. They also were the first people in the United States ever to be awarded a McDonald's franchise, and they got
Oh,
two.
wow.
I mean, they did Super Bowls and they did the Olympics, and they just worked so hard, and they did it as a partnership. Plus, they were been married 50, how many 55 years, 56 years. I was amazed at how they were committed to being great role models as business from a business perspective, but also good role models as the parents that we needed to, boys are crazy, and you have three of them, so just they set the example, they set the level of expectation, and no one worked harder than my dad. So he set an example. Like, he used to say, if you're willing to work hard, you'll always have money in your pocket. Now, everyone defines what they need in their pocket differently, but you'll always have money in your pocket if you're willing to work. And I can tell you, I was probably 11 when he said that, and it still sticks with me today. I still talk about it with my kids.
Well, I think it's even bigger than that. I think you'll feel pride if you work hard,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
There's a certain thing there that happens, I think, that's such a gift for people who can work to
Well,
be
but it
able
is, isn't
to
it? It's also
work
a sense of accomplishment.
for sure.
And, athletics gives you that. So that was an easy transition, but
I
it
agree.
can be anything. It can be the arts, it can be academics, it can be being a great friend. But when you get a sense of accomplishment, it makes how you feel change. And I think that's really important, no matter what that is, how small or how large.
Do you think there is any sort of common theme? Because I'm seeing this as I'm doing all of these interviews. I really do believe being competitive in sports, it makes you a better leader. Like, and competitive in any kind of sport. I mean, that could be in piano and dance and
Yeah.
and diving, and for me, I was always in sports. I mean, it was just I love to win.
You know,
Right?
I think I've said it. I have three daughters, and some were in sports and some were in arts. Uh, I don't care if you're first chair in the violin, as long as you are working your tail off to be the best version. So there's a discipline. I think there's also coaching. There's teamwork. Those things they're not just learned by sitting in front of a television or a computer or a phone. They just aren't. And I think we need to ensure that uh, the generations that are coming up have an opportunity to do that. And maybe we as the employers foster that. If we're hiring kids or young adults that haven't had it, how do we create environments where they can learn that from folks, whether that's mentorships, programs, or what have you? I will tell you, Mattamy Homes does a great job of that, ensuring that there's great, strong mentors for these young, energetic folks, but may not have certain skill sets.
How do they do it actually, Rick? I mean, what are
You
some of
know,
the
I'm a mentor for the WIN program. So specifically, we have a program which is a women empowerment program, which has been
awesome?
unbelievable. I'm on my second year. We're rolling into the third year, and they try to pair you up. And I've had people from accounting, which from the Phoenix market, land development, or engineers from another market. I think the navigating a world where has historically been predominantly run, let's just call it like it is, run by males, and you have really strong, very qualified women. How do you help them navigate where they can feel comfortable in that environment, where they have a voice in that environment? And I think this holds true for anybody, but in particular, Matamy's done an outstanding job of women empowerment, and people have to be nominated for that program. So they have to show the wherewithal that they have a desire to have a career path and a trajectory that is going to be beneficial for the investment, because it's a year-long program.
There really is this whole transformation and new shift towards leadership of women and men, which historically in our industry it really has been very absent. And I think the reason it's been absent is for a lot of reasons. Which one? I mean, female education really got pushed towards the late 60s, early 70s. And you can really see that today women actually have more postgraduate degrees than men do, which is really interesting. But I think the other part is I think society is just transforming culturally in so many different ways, which is really impressive to see. You and I had a great conversation the last time we talked, and I just loved the story about your family and your kids. And you have developed some great leaders at home too. If you wouldn't mind, sort of, kind of, if you could give me some of those like secret tips to raising great children.
I don't think you and your husband need any secrets. I have three daughters. My oldest is 23, Campbell. My middle is 20, Sutton. And my youngest is Finley. As I said, all girls. And yeah, I've had a kid on Broadway, and I have a kid that's the U.S. national champion for ballroom dance and just got back from the World Championships and was just in Italy for 3 months, of training. And so my wife and I decided a long time ago to give him the reins, be mindful, and that's a big word for me, being mindful about what the goal is. My wife and I, we want to raise good people. I don't need a kid that's all, got a 4.4 and can't talk to an adult and look them in the eyes. I want to raise really strong women who are good people, who others want to be around. And whatever that form that takes, academically, my oldest just graduated from college, and I've got another one, who's in her sophomore year. It's how do they take those experiences, and how do we create great young ladies out of them? So
just Broadway and a national champ, and you're, my guess is once again you have a great partner in this too, and it's pretty impressive. I've met some great people, and the best leaders tend to have just really great success in all things, raising leaders, being leaders, all that kind of stuff, and that carries over to the office too. And so with that in mind, as you're looking for great leaders to be on your team, certainly you want them to be experts in their field, and particularly, they're an extension of you for sure. And what are the key characteristics you're looking for in your great leaders?
Integrity, to me, is paramount. And I find that it's harder and harder to find. I don't know why that is, but I say integrity and character. And sometimes when you're hiring someone, you're not sure, and no one's going to give you a referral or a reference to somebody who's going to say something negative. So sometimes that's gut, because we've been doing it as long as we have, right? I have some pretty challenging questions in an interview that have to do with how their brain works in terms of, and it's not case examples, but it's really, in this situation, what did you do? How would you have done it different? What did you learn from it? I'm blown away by how many people say, well, I don't know what I'd learn from it. Oh my gosh, like if you're not learning every day, right? I would say,
exactly.
I would want candidates that know how to lead by example. They set the stage for the commitment to the work. Now, I'm not discounting work-life balance, because we all have to work on that. But I really mean lead by example. Don't expect them to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. I would say the other characteristics, which I've touched on, would be they need to have a complete understanding of their strengths and weaknesses. Where I was referencing, I think good leaders know what they're not great at, and they hire people around them that are better. I feel really strongly about that. But if you're not aware that you have weaknesses, or you're not aware that spreadsheets aren't your thing, so you really need a great accounting or finance department, I'm going to be concerned about your awareness and judgment and decision-making a little bit.
Most people don't know their weaknesses. I would tell you, most great leaders I know, including myself, I think I'm harder on myself than anyone else. I mean, and those are the categories we all strive to be better in.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, when do you think the turning point was in your career where you were like, God, I think I've, and I would ask it this way, but like, I think I've made it, or like, whoa, was there a turning point?
I don't think there was a specific turning point. I think when people that I really respected in the industry started asking for my advice, I recognized that, wow, they view me as a peer. And that just gave me a sense of pride. Candidly, it's probably pride that people that I really looked up to, saw me as a subject matter expert, and they wanted my opinion. And I thought that was really pretty cool.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Now, was it a certain time frame in your life or a certain career that you had? I mean, certainly as you took very senior leadership at a very young age, right?
Yeah, it's probably when I was consulting because you know more than anyone, you learn best practices. And my client roster was really pretty A-list. And that was a blessing. That's all that was. I was really very fortunate. Had I not had Seaside and done that, I wouldn't have had the client roster. So, again, kudos to the Davises for including me. But when you learn best practices from so many of these great communities, you start being sought out to say, what did you learn? What would you have done differently? What should they have done differently from a consulting perspective? So that's probably when it was when I owned my consulting firm.
Well, you definitely have a great resume of master plans that you've worked on for sure. And that's pretty impressive.
Thank you.
Tell me this, what makes you get up in the morning and say, I can't wait to get to work?
This is corny. Sorry. I really love the dynamic between people, process, and profit. I absolutely love being able to toggle between those, educate those, from as a leader to the people that work with me. But there are very few people I know that love all three. I love all three silos because I actually don't think they're silos. I think they're interconnected. And if you can do that really well, placemaking's easy.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you. And do you find most people connect those dots? Or do you find that they sort of stay in one category? Or how do you get them excited about that?
Great question. The short answer is no. I don't think people see that. They're very myopic or they're tunnel, right? I am really fortunate that the team I've got right now has experience in multiple buckets.
So what's the key thing when you're trying to motivate your own team and be that inspiration to them to sort of like pull the best out of them?
I have a philosophy that anyone who wants to work with us doesn't have a problem being held accountable. So,
like that.
And people view that as something very negative, and it's very much from the consulting world. But people that are doing a really bang up job, they're like, hold me accountable. Give me milestones, give me deadlines. I'm all for it, right?
I want them.
And then the people that usually are giving you 60% or want to phone it in or struggle on Facebook for 4 hours a day, they're the ones that don't want to be held accountable. So for me, inspect what you expect. So I do a lot of walking around. I walk in offices all the time, because I'm actually better verbally than I am. I'm pretty short. I got a lot of brevity when I email. But you'll be amazed when you just have a walking around attitude and you start inspecting what you expect, other people start to make that morning drive first so they don't get the list.
Well, I think people really appreciate that. I mean, I think your energy, I would want you to come into my office every day. And I really do think that people genuinely want to see the person that they're working for, to see them, and frankly, because they are working hard, right? I mean, I think that's appreciated. And I think it's a sign of appreciation when you show up.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's really nice. I hadn't really thought of that. And I really do. Thank you. That makes a lot of sense.
So let me ask you this. In your career, choose one or two people that have been very inspirational to you professionally, and then maybe one or two personally.
Robert and Daryl Davis with Seaside, because they took a chance on me when I was young. And I look back and they knew what their weaknesses were, right? Which from a leadership perspective, they were willing to bring in someone that didn't necessarily have, had more in that experience than they did. So I would say Robert and Daryl Davis. I would say for professionally, even right now, Matamy's leadership, Peter Gilgan, he's phenomenal. And every time I've had a chance, and I've had the chance to meet him and present and communicate, and he's come to Wellen Park just on his own he's been phenomenal. He has the most amazing disposition. He's not threatening at all. He's not intense, or doesn't appear to be intense. And I think he is. He just doesn't give you that persona. But you feel like he's made you feel included and valued. And I'm a DP in the US, and you know what I mean, in the scheme of things, but he he zeroes in and ensures you feel valued and ensures that he compliments how hard you're working on his behalf as the owner of Mattamy. That doesn't happen every day, not from that level. It really doesn't. So I really appreciate that. And then on a personal level, I've had one or two pastors that have kind of changed my life. And I have the most amazing wife. Anyone who's been able to deal with all my stuff and all my travel, and she's a leader unto herself, and she's probably, from what her friends say, the most amazing friend, which I think will be make a great mom too as the girls get older and have their own kids. I think she'll be wonderful at that. So I would say I've had a couple amazing pastors, and then my wife.
Every conversation I've had with you, your wife sounds like the ultimate rock star. So
well, I think to
meet her someday. She seems fantastic.
To be with me, she'd have to be. How's that?
Yeah, no way. And as we sort of close, give me 2 to 3 things that you're going to work on for your future to continue to lead and inspire and all that stuff.
This sounds crazy. I am diligently working on slowing down in my email communication. What I'm finding is the brevity at which I email. I'm not used to, dear Mollie, hope you had a great weekend. How are the boys? And then get into the subject. I don't do that because I'm trying to, work through 300 emails a day. And that's not an excuse, by the way. What I found is there are certain folks that I really need to understand how communication is received. It has nothing to do with me giving it out. It's how it's received. So that's that gets the wheels going. So I'm going to work on that.
Brilliant.
I'm going to work on balance, work-life balance. It's a constant for me. It's constant for me. And I have a 2-hour commute. So if I could get those 2 hours back a day, maybe it'd be a little bit different, but I've got to work on that a little bit. And then I would say going with there was a time in my career where you would do large scale, my parents did the Super Bowl and the Olympics and stuff like that. So you did these huge events. And you had to let yourself off the hook for 3 things. There was going to be 3 things that weren't perfect, right? And if you knew them and something happened, you're like, okay, check, that's one. Check this. It was a way for you to just be comfortable that things weren't going to be perfect. I feel like there were so many things coming together with this downtown and all the commercial openings that I've got to give myself and my team a break, that it's not going to be perfect. And we're going to screw it up a couple of times, and we just have to learn from it, make sure we don't do it again, or we recover quickly.
It's kind of funny too, but I've learned in life sometimes those imperfections are some of the sweet things that make it unique.
I will tell you what they do is they gel a team.
Yes.
They gel a team. They're there to solve it together, and everyone comes together. And it also highlights the people that probably shouldn't be on the team anymore. but when people come together to solve a problem, good, big, small, I love that, because you're so proud of it afterwards. You've been able to overcome the obstacle as a team, and I think that's huge.
That's pretty awesome. So that concludes. Rick, thank you so much. I really appreciate you spending what's the morning for me, afternoon for you. I can't thank you enough. Every time I talk to you, I get energy from you. Thank you. I mean, I have to believe your team does too. And Mattamy's lucky to have you. I can't wait to see Wellen this next year. Great. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you again for joining us. This is Mollie Carmichael, and I hope you enjoyed this series. Please hit like if you liked today's broadcast, and subscribe if you'd like to hear more from the best and the brightest in our industry. Take care, everyone, and I hope you join us again next time.